Hey guys, Caitlin here. We are going to talk about RightStart Math Level F. I want to do a quick review of this for you. We just wrapped this up with my oldest for this past school year, and I have traditionally done a review video for each of the RightStart levels, and so I wanted to add this one to my list here. So for those of you who may not have seen my previous videos or been following me for a couple years or anything, I have used RightStart Math since my oldest was in kindergarten. So we've gone through the RightStart program from the beginning, and he just finished, like I said, level F. By his age, or if he were in school, he would be a fifth grader. So he did level F for fifth grade, and we just finished it up, and super happy with it. Loved it, just like I've loved the other RightStart levels. I felt like it was very thorough. It was not a harder year, as in the concepts were more difficult for him. He actually did quite well with the different concepts, but it is a long year. That felt kind of hard. It's 150 lessons, which is more than any of the other RightStart levels have been. And so it did feel like a super long year. Just as far as or a super long level as far as getting through the level. But other than that, I just really felt like this was a good level for digging in and doing fractions. If I could sum up this level in one word, it would be fractions. That's not the whole entire thing that you do, but that is what you do for a large majority of the year, is fractions, fractions, fractions. And I feel like it covers it really thoroughly, which I enjoy. I feel like most of the RightStart levels kind of have like one main thing they do. They touch on a lot of things, but I feel like, one year it's like really thorough, strong, really hits on, say, addition, and then one year it's subtraction, and then one year it's your multiplication year, etc. I felt like this year was your fraction year, and you just really dive in and work on understanding fractions inside and out. Now, if you've been with RightStart from the beginning, you know that we started fractions back in kindergarten. And actually, that was a really cool thing that happened this year. Towards the end of the year, I was doing lessons with my oldest in RightStart F. And then I also had not my youngest, but my third child who did kindergarten last year. And she was doing some RightStart A lessons. And they were both working on fractions, because they both just happened to be on a fraction lesson, and they both, she was towards the end of the book, and I was looking at it, I was thinking, this is so cool. They started fractions in kindergarten, which when I taught it in A, I thought, this is kind of crazy. Even though my son picked it up really easily, it like made so much sense to him, and it made sense to me after teaching that to say, oh yeah, let's start them in kindergarten with fractions. But it was neat to see them at the two different levels doing different things with the fractions, of both still using those same manipulatives from level A to level F and working on the fractions and being able to see that progression through my kids. So that was just like a fun full circle moment, kind of, as I'm teaching, level F to 1, and then looking way back and remembering, oh, I remember when we did level A with you, and now I'm doing it again with your sister. So anyway, that was pretty cool. All right, so there's 150 lessons. There are a bunch of review lessons at the beginning. I think maybe like 13-ish. I sort of flipped through and looked at them. And so that was one thing that helped, is that we were able to cover multiple review lessons in a day at the very beginning of the school year. And so condensing those down kind of brings your total number of lessons down a little bit. So depending on if your kid has been doing RightStart from the beginning, or they're just jumping in, they're really needing the review, whatever, you may be able to fly very quickly through those review lessons at the beginning. One thing to tell you that may be a encouragement to you or your child is that the multivides slow down a lot in this level. So at the beginning of the year, you start out continuing at the multivides, assuming that you did level E, which I'm guessing you probably did if you're watching this video and you're getting ready for F, but just in case you're not, or maybe you're several levels behind, you haven't gone to E, multivides are something that are taught in E that really practice multiplication and division. The kids do them as warm-ups almost every single lesson in level E after they finished learning about multivides, and they are really good practice, but take a long time. And so they get some, not so much love sometimes from other RightStart families, just because they take a lot of time. And so a lot of kids don't like them. Sometimes parents don't like them. Anyway, all that to say, you start out level F continuing to do multivides for practice, but it does taper off. And by about mid-year, you are doing very, very few of them for warm-ups. So if you have a child who is like, oh, I'm so tired of multivides, or if you are like, I'm so tired of multivides, they're going to slow down. At least in F, we didn't do a ton of them. Okay, so here's kind of what's covered in F. The first half of the year, you kind of go through all your review and stuff, and there's a few like little random topics here and there. But then we learned short division in E, and I thought short division was amazing. I thought it was the coolest thing ever because I'd never learned that before. You learn long division in F. So if you watched my E video, I talked about that a little bit. But in case you didn't, or you're looking ahead and you're like, we haven't learned long division yet, that is coming in F. They do learn long division. They practice that a lot. Once you've learned short division, nobody wants to do long division anymore because short division is amazing, but long division is helpful in certain instances and for later on down the road. So they do learn that and practice that. There's some work with fractions. No, sorry, that comes later, the second half of the year. There is tons of work with fractions, but that's not what I was talking about. Decimals is what I meant to say. So practicing with, adding and subtracting and multiplying and dividing decimals, that kind of thing. There is a unit, I guess you want to say, several lessons in a row about area, and then volume. They get into volume. And so that kind of gets you to about halfway through the school year. So that's kind of your first half of the year. Second half of the year, that's when you jump into fractions and you're gonna stick in fractions for a good long time. It's a really, really thorough lesson, really thorough level when it talks about fractions. You're gonna add them, subtract them, multiply them, divide them. You're gonna learn multiple different methods. You're going to, understand mixed numbers versus improper fractions. And you just hang out in the fraction land for quite a long time. Towards the end of the year, towards the end of like really hammering on the fractions, my son was kind of like, I'm so tired of doing fractions. And he's really not much of a complainer, but it was just a lot of fractions, which I was really thrilled at how thorough it was. But I know RightStart kind of hops around a lot in previous lessons. And so it's actually, I feel like, unusual for us to stay on one topic for so very, very, very long. And so I don't know. I didn't mind it at all. He didn't mind it. It was just like towards the end, he was kind of like, can we do something besides fractions? I'm like, I get it. I do. It was a lot, but like I said, really thorough understanding. So I was happy with that. Once you get through the big fraction section, there's a little bit of like an introduction to probability, a little bit about coordinate planes and graphing, a lesson or two about solving for X and, like some equations. So it's like kind of just like touching on a few pre-algebra type concepts. There's not much at all, but it just, touches on it a little bit. There is a unit, I guess you would say, towards the end. RightStart does not do units like a traditional unit you would see in a lot of other math curriculums, which I kind of wish they did because my brain, that is so much more organized, but that's not how they do it. But there are, there's a unit of dimensional analysis, converting units, converting back and forth. I'll be honest, by that point in the year, we were kind of like, I want to be sort of done with this and just kind of pushing through. So that was not my favorite part of this level. There was nothing wrong with it. I think it's a really valuable skill. It was just, we were tired. I'm just being honest. By the end of the year, we were just kind of tired of school in general. And so I did consider stopping and waiting until the next school year, but I also know kind of like how we operate. We do take a summer break. We're not ones to school year round. And I decided for us to just go ahead and push through this. It wasn't like a lot of lessons. It really wasn't. It was just, we were tired. Anyway, and then at the very end, there are some drawing lessons. Not very many. I feel like this is one of the lighter drawing levels of RightStart. I mean, obviously, like those real early levels, but from the last several levels, this one has had not very much drawing. Now, I know next year in G, it's like all drawing. So I was not like concerned about the fact that there wasn't a lot of drawing, but it is there. Like, I feel like RightStart's kind of known for that. It is included in that, but there wasn't a whole lot. Anyway, so that's that. I'm going to flip the camera around. I'm going to show you a quick flip through of the book so you can see kind of what I'm talking about with the different lessons. But I will answer one FAQ, which I get fairly often, and that is, are we going to continue with RightStart or are we going to switch? Because I feel like after F, this is where a lot of families stop with RightStart and will go to something else, because G and H are, from what I understand, we haven't really gotten into it yet, but very different. They're drawing heavy. It uses a lot of the drawing board and the drawing lessons to kind of bring it all together. And so some people don't like it, their kids don't like it, they don't like it, and so they don't continue. And then there's another camp that is like, that is what you've been working for all these years. This is like the culmination of all the things that you've been working for in RightStart. Don't stop now. So we are going to continue. I've got level G. That is what we plan to do next year for his 6th grade year. And you know, if it's a total disaster or something, we would switch and try something different. But I have no reason or no desire to switch at this point. I have been so happy with RightStart, super thrilled with the foundation that it's laid for our math. And so I'm excited to give G a try and see how it goes, and see how it is. And so come back next year for my review of level G, and we'll see how that goes. But for those who've been asking, I get comments on old videos or messages on Instagram asking if we're going to continue or if we're going to be done. We are going to continue with G. So that's what we'll be doing next year. All right, let me show you the inside of this book, and then that'll be that. Quick flip through. Here's our table of contents. All of our lessons listed here. All right, a bunch of review at the beginning, like I mentioned. Lots of review. So all stuff that if you've been doing RightStart from the beginning, you'll be able to skip totally or go through very quickly with your kiddo, probably. All right, and then we talk about order of operations. This game right here, what's this game? Make 20. This was super fun. We played this a lot for several lessons, and it was a really fun game for making expressions and order of operations. Squares, cubes. Okay, so we got a little multiplication, division. So just kind of a couple of random things there at the beginning to start off the year. More review, tenths and hundredths, thousandths, adding decimals, subtracting decimals, averaging, rounding. Okay, more review, multiplying. There's some dividing here. And so we're still doing our short division, but we're learning how to do short division when our divisor is greater than 10. So back to multivides there, multiplying, dividing decimals by whole numbers. So lots of tenths and hundredths and decimals, like I said at the beginning there. Dividing by decimals. And then we get into some other multiplying stuff. And here we switch from short division to long division. So, like I said, my son was not a huge fan of long division, but we did it. Okay, so more division, remainders, more dividing. So good amount of dividing there. All right, and then we get into the area. Well, some of it, there's more squares and stuff, which is also area, but we got, like I said, a big lot of area, but we're dealing with a lot of decimals, so we're doing our area problems, but practicing with things like decimals and some fractions, formulas, learn a bunch of different formulas for area, volume, skip counting with fractions. So here we get into to the fractions. So lots and lots and lots of fractions. We're going to see just fractions forever. I may just skip a bunch of this because it's truly many lessons about fractions. They're all great lessons. Like I said, I'm really happy with how thorough it was with fractions. It's just a lot of fractions. Okay, so yeah. So here's just a quick little flip through there of a lot of fractions. Okay, then we do some percentages. And here's where we got into probability just a little bit. combinations. I love probabilities. That was fun for me. And then a little tiny bit about graphing, coordinate plane type stuff. I mean, I say a little tiny bit. It's like, what, 5, 6 lessons? But it's not super thorough. You know, it's not like a ton of information, but just an introduction to it. Then here's our system dimensional analysis unit, I guess. Converting units here. Again, it's not a ton of lessons, but it's a good unit, a good chunk there. And then a few drawing lessons. We've got some drawing review, scaling figures, drawing polygons, and scribed circles. And then you just review the year, and that's it.